All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in this week's episode of MovieByte, where we digest movies that have impacted our movie culture. I am your host, Ruben, and with me is my buddy, the Russian. How you doing?
Hello, everybody. Hello. How are you today? Good to be back. Today we have a very special to our hearts movie. Very little project by very unknown person at the time. The movie is called Memento, and it was directed by Christopher Nolan. It is his first bigger budget production. He did one movie before that. That was his kind of artsier product. It was his, from my understanding, the film school dissertation. When you have to kind of give your final work in film schools, they make you do a short film. But on a big screen, he came with Memento, which was written by him based on a story, Memento Mori, which was written by his brother, who later on also collaborated on a lot of Nolan movies. And then he got greenlighted for his own project, which was the Westworld, right?
Yes, Westworld. Yeah. He created Westworld based on the idea of a Michael Crichton movie.
Right. Yeah. So Memento came out in 2001. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it premiered somewhere in March. It was very limited release. I honestly, like, when we started talking about Memento, like, I could not pinpoint how I came across it. I just remember that I saw a commercial on MTV. Like, for some reason, it stuck with me that I saw the commercial on MTV for this movie, and then I was like, I gotta watch it. But then it was like years from the point when I knew about the movie and then I actually saw it. And the first view was pretty shocking to me. It was very groundbreaking way of viewing a movie. Because you kind of at the end of the storyline in the first scene, and then you have a black and white part, and then you have a color part, and everything is in kind of these little short cuts where you feel like you're moving forward, but you also feel like you're moving backward. And I'll be honest with you, with first viewing, I liked it, but it was very confusing.
I agree. Yeah.
It was very. I felt so bad for the character, and he just portrayed as this guy who lost everything, and with everything we mean he lost his short-term memory, and his wife is gone, and then he's on this rampage of finding the guy, and at the end you figure out he actually already killed the guy, so now he just kind of a puppet under Joe Pantoliano. Great actor. I mean, he came from Sopranos. He plays Detective Teddy, or James. What was the last name? Jimmy G.
James Grant. That was the character in the movie.
No, Jimmy Grant was the drug dealer.
Oh, you're talking about him. You're talking about Teddy's John Grammel.
Gumbel. We know that he was. He started with a G. Yeah. Like the first bite of that movie was hard to swallow. It was very hard to watch, and I liked it, but it was a lot of left on the table. How you felt?
So to add to everything that you said, so Jonathan Nolan created Westworld. He also created a very popular show on CBS that a lot of people may know, Person of Interest, that ran for about 5 seasons with Jim Caviezel and Michael Emerson from Lost. A really good show, had really good reviews. I haven't had the opportunity to watch it, but I've heard it's amazing. And it's also, I mean, it's that type of show in that same vein that you see in Memento and you see in other movies that he has written for his brother, Christopher Nolan. To add a little bit of facts to it, this movie pretty much, it was the first movie. Christopher Nolan only has done 2 movies outside of Warner Brothers. Memento and his short film Following were the only 2. because of Memento and its popularity in film festivals, Warner Brother pretty much gave Nolan a multi-picture contract. His first movie for Warner Bros. Was Insomnia with Al Pacino and Robin Williams, adapted based on an original adapted screenplay of a foreign film. Followed, and after Insomnia, Warner Brothers gave Nolan the mantle to bring back Batman. And that became what we all know nowadays, the Dark Knight trilogy. And he gave us probably one of the best movies, Batman related, of this last 2 decades with Dark Knight. And then follow on, he did a lot of other projects, Prestige, Dunkirk, his last project, Tenet. But yeah, so Christopher Nolan, very popular. So my first perspective when I saw this movie, I saw it probably around the same time Inception came out.
That's late.
So, yeah, I was late into it. Like, to be honest, I didn't know who Christopher Nolan was until I saw Batman Begins. I didn't know he did Insomnia before then, and I didn't know he did Memento. So Batman Begins was the first movie I saw by Christopher Nolan. And at that point, I still wasn't like, okay, he's just another comic book movie director. But it wasn't until I saw Inception that I was like, I like this original concept, this mind-bending story. And I had a college friend that told me like, hey, if you like Inception, you should watch Memento. It's pretty much something in a similar style, like mind-bending narrative, but it's kind of like different. So I'm like, okay, sure, I'll give it a shot. So I found the movie, and I rented it, and I watched it. The first time I watched it, I felt the same way you did. I was intrigued by how this movie was done, the characters in the movie, like you connect to them in some way. But I had to watch it again. I could not get it from my first viewing. And we'll go deeper into that throughout the episode. But yeah, I mean, it's a great movie. I always thought it's been a great movie. It's one of my top movies. And I really have fun watching it again this past weekend. It brought back a lot of memories.
Do you think that when you watch this again, does the narrative changes? Does that shifts?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
So in my opinion, right, when I watched it for the first time, like I had an idea of what's the storyline is. Okay. When I started rewatching it, my narrative switched. Like, you understand, and we're gonna go into heavy spoilers. So if you guys have not seen the movie, and we probably already spoiled some things, you may want to pause it and go watch the movie. But it's the 20-year-old movie. So remember Sammy Jenkins. Sammy Jenkins plays a big part of driving the narrative.
Yeah.
At some point, you realize that Sammy Jenkins was either the fictional character, or he just kind of gives us an idea and a justification of the actions what Guy Pearce character Leonard is doing through the movie. He is in a search for the killer of his wife. There was a break-in, there was a rape, and there was a murder, and we figured out that there was two people who did that, and then one of them Lenny killed on the spot, and then the one broke away, and the police kind of never bothered and never believed him that was the case, right? So that's kind of when you rewatch it again and again, that's the part where I settled in. For the longest time before going back a few years ago and rewatching it and starting to picking up on the different notes, that was for the decade that was to me what the movie was about. So what is your take on?
I would agree with you. The first time I saw the movie, I was sold on the narrative that they present you in the movie. Okay,
Right.
and I don't want to go into like details until we go deeper into it. But every time I see this movie, I catch more details that changes my thought of what's really happening, and it makes me think that there's another possibility that the narrative in this movie is totally different than what it's presented to you. And this is something that Nolan does on purpose in this movie. He withholds the same information that the main character, who is played by Guy Pearce, he's withholding that same information that the character doesn't know. He's withholding it from the audience. Okay. So the audience is also pretty much Lenny Shelby in the movie. Okay. You don't know who this character is other than he has a condition where he can't create new memories. He only remembers everything that happened before his accident. And after that, he can't create any new memories. Okay. So you have these other characters. Teddy, played again by Joe Pantoliano, amazing actor. Every role that he plays always makes it memorable. And for those who don't know who Joe Pantoliano, he has done from The Goonies to Bad Boys Trilogy, the bad guy in The Matrix,
Sopranos.
He's been in Ben Affleck's Daredevil. He played the reporter. So he's done a lot of roles, and he's been on the numerous TV shows. Yeah, he's done a lot of TV shows, and he's a great actor. But you have that character Teddy, who's also, you don't know who this Teddy guy is, other than what what Guy Pearce is telling you, right? And then you have Natalie, played by the amazing Carrie-Anne Moss, who's also from The Matrix. For those who don't know who she is, she plays this Natalie character, which you also don't know who she is, other than she's a bartender, but you don't find that out throughout until the middle of the movie, right?
Yep. And it's hard to talk about this movie because it goes backwards and forwards at the same time. So we can't really,
and that's the thing.
Really give you the well description of the storyline, except for, hey, listen, you have to watch it from the beginning to the end.
So speaking of the storyline, and this is something that I watched in a documentary doing research for the movie. And this is probably the best way to describe it. And Nolan describes the storyline. He calls it the hairpin timeline. So you have a hairpin, normally a hairpin shaped, like a U sideways.
Right.
And you have two scenes, black and white scenes and color scenes. The color scenes are moving backwards, and the black and white scenes are moving forward. So this story in color is moving backwards, and the other one's moving forward, to the point that eventually they all connect at one point in the movie.
And it comes.
And that's why he calls it the hairpin timeline.
Right.
So
the black and white part is theoretically a beginning of the story of this story, and then the color version is the end of the story, and it comes beautifully at the. It's kind of an end of the movie when you take a picture of Jimmy. Take that picture,
it comes and the colors merges
to life, and then you realize that now these two stories came together. So now I'm just gonna have like the last final bit of the act where I heard the part A, part B, and now we're just gonna have the conclusion.
This movie is so impactful. It's just one of those few movies that starts with the ending. Okay? The first scene in the movie is Leonard Shelby killing Teddy. Okay? And what they do to make you know that this is the ending, they make the only frame in the movie that's actually reversed is that first scene when Guy Pearce reaches and the gun comes back to him. And the bullet gets loaded back. So they're reversing that scene to let you know, moving forward from that point, that story is moving backwards. Okay? And I watched this scene, and for those who haven't seen Tenet, it's the same technology that they used throughout the movie Tenet to create the reverse scenes. Memento was the first movie to use that frame to start something. But it's just amazing. It's one of those few movies that starts with the ending. So you're thinking here, like, wait, so they just revealed the ending. So what's going on with this movie? And that's what makes this movie so interesting. Because the main story of this movie, it's not him killing Teddy at the beginning of the movie. It's him trying to find who this Jimmy G guy is.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, I can't think of anything which comes first to the mind where like the ending is the ending. You know, I'm sure there's plenty of movies, and I'm sure if we have any comments, good movies forward, people will point it out. But it's good. It's funny how you pointed it out, because I've seen this so many times that little things, you pay attention to the ones that you haven't seen, but the ones you've seen millions of times, you kind of just let it go and think like that. This is how this always felt, and it's how it's always been. So I'm glad you kind of brought it up. I was like, yeah, that's a reverse scene, and I'm already.
That's the first scene. That's right. The only frame you see in the entire movie that goes reverse. After that, the scenes move forward, but the story is happening backwards.
Correct.
Yeah, and to make the audience understand what's going on, Christopher Nolan overlaps the scenes on purpose.
Yep, every scene which ends.
It's where it starts beginning. Off. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's amazing, because this movie, if you miss 10 seconds of it, you're probably already lost.
And not only that, the attention to detail and the way how the dialogue references little things within the movie, I think that was a very brilliant decision. For example, like when you take Lenny, for example, right? He's the guy who is describing Sammy Jenkins as the guy, and you can feel through the movie as he dislikes him. He's like, this guy, he got this car accident. Now he is so useless. He can't make any new memories. He's good with what he used to know, like he can do insulin shots for his wife, who has diabetes, technically speaking, on a narrative that is presented to us in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And he can do these hard operations as long as he learned them before, right? And Lenny says, well, that was his problem, that he was disorganized and he did not have any discipline, right? And then the first thing Lenny does, he takes off his shirt to show like his organization is based on his tattoos, which he follows as his Bible, which is ironic that every room he stays in a hotel obviously has the Bible, given Bible. So that's right there. Nolan is already pointing out few flaws which the character has without saying anything but showing it. So you got all of his tattoos. They up and down, they backwards. Some of them you have to have a mirror for you to read it, and they're not organized. But he states that I'm very disciplined and I'm very organized person. So just from that point on, I'm starting to pay attention of how much Lenny is doing against what he believes and what he's saying. And obviously all of that leads to the ending, where at the end you can see that a lot of stuff that he explains to you as a narrator through the phone call conversations with, and I'm pretty sure it's Teddy, even though I do have my conspiracy theories when he's in a black and white hotel room. Yeah. He's talking. You don't really get to hear the voice on the other end. There's the smash that after he takes out the tattoo and it shows "do not answer the phone."
Yeah,
and he never picks up the phone and receives the envelope with the picture of him, doing the deed. So like,
I kind of agree with you.
Yeah, it's ties together that we have to assume that the highest probability that on the phone it's Teddy who just messing with him. He got nothing else to do.
Yep.
He's plotting this thing through, and at this point, when we think about Teddy, so this guy is actually organized, and this guy is actually disciplined, because he puts all this time. He realized that Lenny is his a cash grab. It's his it's like bread and butter. He can manipulate this guy into doing his deeds. Comes out clean. There's no witnesses usually, and there's no memory of what happened because Lenny does all the dirty work.
Yeah.
Right. So from that perspective, there's a, in my opinion, kind of conflict of interest. This guy is saying, "Hey, I'm disciplined, I'm organized," and you see Teddy as this goofball until the end when he kind of reveals the master plan, and you feel when he tells him what actually happened and how it happened, and you're not gonna remember it. Just it kind of gut wrenching to see that this dude just was using the broken man for his game, and there's no really good characters in this. Again, we keep going to the movies where there's not too many good characters, but in this one, yeah.
I mean, the characters in this movie, they're all like it's so well written. So the casting overall in this movie, they needed actors to be able to play characters that will be able to create first-hand impressions. Okay, and that's what you see with the three main characters, which are Leonard, Teddy, and Natalie. The moment you see them, you already have first impressions from them. You don't know them, but you already feel like for example, the first time you see Teddy in the movie, you're already like, this guy's up to something, right? The moment you meet Natalie in the movie, you're like, she's up to something.
Everybody has an angle.
Exactly. And that's only achieved because of the way the story is being told. Okay, because you see, the first time you meet Natalie in the movie, it's in a diner scene. And she's wearing glasses, and she takes the glasses off, and she has a black eye and a busted lip. So you're already saying she's probably in an abusive relationship, right? And Leonard's helping her, right?
Somehow, right?
Right. The first time you meet Teddy, it's in the lobby of the hotel, and he has like this smirk, like I'm now up to no good, douchebag look, right. And you're like, this is probably the bad guy.
And he's set up as well because Bert, the guy working at the register, he's like,
yeah,
your friend? He's like, he's not my friend. Oh, he's here. So you can, so he's not. It's just small type of dialogue. And that's what a lot of directors nowadays are missing, is that you don't have to explain us. And then maybe one day we're going to go back to Tenet, like when it's over explained, like you did so good 20 years ago. Why do you have to keep going into the explanation of the storyline or the character or their purpose or what they're trying to accomplish? You did this so brilliantly 20 years ago and we all got it. Maybe didn't make as much movie as you want. I mean, as much money as you wanted, but it was a fantastic introduction of the character, and you start building like the report.
A little fun fact regarding casting. So Carrie-Anne Moss, she recommended Joe Pantoliano to Nolan for the role of Teddy because they worked together in The Matrix. And Christopher Nolan was not keen on the idea of casting him as Teddy firsthand because he thought that people will automatically pinpoint him as the bad guy, like the villain of the movie, like automatically because of his past. He's made so much movies, and most of his characters are bad guys, that Nolan was like, I don't want this guy. People are gonna look at him and say he's a bad guy.
Right.
But Joe Pantoliano he creates Teddy, and he makes him look like he probably is the bad guy, but at the same time, he might be helping Leonard find out who the assassin of his wife is, right? So you got that like, he could be or could not be, so it's difficult. Right, especially because the story is being told backwards, and obviously the movie starts with Leonard killing Teddy. So obviously you find out that something was wrong in the in that whole story.
I just want to, because if I don't say this, I probably will forget. But that's the one of the funnest moments of the entire movie for me, at least personally. There are a few laughs, there are a few good jokes in there, but every time there's a scene where there's Leonard and Teddy and the Jaguar involved, Teddy always tries to get that car. He tries to drive it. He tries to get him to leave it. And I feel like, I mean, you put it all together at the end, but you never, when you watch it, it's such a joy why he's after this car. And obviously the reason for that is because there's $200,000 in the trunk of that car and the evidence of the gun. So it's, I mean, obviously these guys knew what they're doing and they knew what the story, how it's going to play out and how it's going to end. But every little detail is in there. Every little thing which can cover any sort of untied knots are presented. I'm ready to dive in if you want me to kind of into the darker side of.
Yeah. Let's go ahead.
Unless you have.
I'll chime in on anything that I see that has a connection that I can add on to it. But yeah, let's go ahead because I wanna also discuss like what's my take of this whole story in that movie. So let's go ahead. You want to
go first, or you want me to?
No, let's just do it because you're probably gonna mind fuck me, and then I'll probably just let's wrap it up. This is the end of the show because I need to watch this movie again.
Right. So the first few things I want to point out, which are like these very minor details in the movie. One, it's been known that Lenny should, obviously he states that he's not like Sammy and he can learn, and Sammy should have learned through repetition, right? But there are a few scenes in the movie where either Nolan forgot that that's not supposed to be in there, or it was directed by him to actually involve them. When Leonard opens the door and the door says push or pull, one of them, but the door does not open up. The thing is that he's been in that hotel for way too long to not learn through repetition, as he explained in a test which were done by Sammy, that he should have learned that door either opens in or out. I have the note here, but I can't tell you exactly which way it goes. But that's one thing. The second thing is when him and Natalie, they spend the night together. In the morning, he gets up and he starts putting on a shirt. So the first though, it's a female shirt, so it's a lot smaller, even though he manages to put it on. And kind of there's a funny thing. It's like Natalie's like, "Give me back my shirt." Again, repetition. You've been putting, even though those are Jimmy's clothes, but you've been wearing them for a period of time, right? So you should have been able to recognize your clothes. Like you don't see Lenny putting on his wife's clothes. Like you don't see him wearing a bra for no reason. Like it's not part of your mentality. Another thing, and this is the main thing, which, well, not maybe the main thing, but that's what kind of mind blows to me, is when Lenny is angry, Natalie comes back with a Polaroid picture. Sorry, let me reverse it. I have it written, but it's not like when Lenny comes back and says, "Hey, Todd, who the fuck is Todd? Like, what did you make me do?" And she takes the picture and says, "It's okay. I send you on the mission. It's for me. Don't worry." And she starts tearing the Polaroid picture. But Polaroid is heavy plastic, so it's hard to rip them up. And he says, "You can't do them. You can't rip them apart. You need to burn them." All right. Now, why would Lenny burn any Polaroid pictures prior to becoming this obsessed with his detective storyline? Like if he was as it's described in a film that he was the insurance agent, what does insurance agent doing burning Polaroids? Right. So that's the key thing, that when he needs to know what's happening, that clicks. But in that stage, he's like angry. Right. And so that's kind of the setup for me to go ahead into my main conspiracy theory, which is not really a conspiracy theory, but I believe that in a deeper state, Lenny knows what he's doing. Like, I believe that Lenny killed his wife because she made, like, and that's the thing. I don't have the right answer because there's no right answer, but she tested him to see if he's bluffing, right? So I'm sure he loved his wife, but there was, you can't go back and to see what was the person's mind at that state and why he did it. Maybe he couldn't live with her being raped and her going through that emotional state. I mean, you can't really pinpoint why he did that, but I'm sure it was a conscious decision, and in some way, because he describes that Sammy Jenkins had capacity to make new memories, and his condition was not the physical one, as this stated in the movie. So if you can prove that X equals Y, and Y equals 2, then X equals Y. So if we can say that Sammy Jenkins was not real, and Sammy Jenkins was Lenny's figment of imagination to cope with his decisions, or what he did
with his guilt, yeah,
right. So that makes us go to the next aspect, is that he's just a serial killer on the loose, and he's a perfect killing machine. And I mean, he has all the reasons to do so. Like every serial killer out there, they have motivation. Why they do. They have the specific. I'm not specialist of serial killers, but all the documentaries which I saw, you have a specific type, right? So here he's going for John G. That's his.
Yeah.
That's the person he's after, right? So there's a lot of things that keep that drive going. He takes out the pages after they originally find and kill the guy who was responsible for his wife's rape. It does not satisfy him, because that lust, that feeling that he wants to kill again, it's still there. So he keeps going. Yes, we can say, hey, listen, because he doesn't remember, but he remembers everything else. And I've been kind of pointing it out that he's very angry through the movie. And it's when you watch it for the first time that his anger in your mind is suppressed by like sympathy. You sympathize with the guy. You understand what he went through. So you kind of close your eyes on what he actually is doing on a screen. And his rage and his aggression are viewed in the multiple scenes. It's not just one scene. Like, for example, tell me one scene that you think that he was overly aggressive for no particular reason.
I mean, probably the scene that he hits Natalie,
Right.
He smacks her in the face and busts her lip.
Right.
Because she talks about his wife.
So there we can kind of, he got pushed to that corner, but you still don't over aggress and exploit your rage like that, right? You have to have control. And since he's stating that he's disciplined and organized, that card is out of the window in just that one scene. Another thing, when he's at the motel, right, and he's taking a shower, and the Dodd comes in his mind, he's in the shower, like he does not know whose room it is or what, but he instantly attacks the guy. They start fighting and he beats him up. Another scene with Dodd again, when he's running and he's like, what am I doing? Oh, I'm chasing this guy. So his instinct thought in his head is like, I'm chasing this guy. He does not have a thought, or maybe I'm jogging just because I'm having fun. No, he's like, I'm chasing this guy. When he jumps in the car and Teddy's like, hey, Lenny, he starts choking Teddy without asking, who the fuck are you? But his, again, first switch, it's aggression. All right. And to back it up, let's go to the beginning of the movie where you can, when Teddy asks him, hey, listen, you don't know what's happening. You don't know who you are. And Lenny replies, I'm Leonard Shelby. I'm from San Francisco. And before he can continue, Teddy interrupts and says, that's who you were. That's not what you've become. right? And that is also, he says that one more time, exact same line, exact same words in the middle of the movie. And then obviously at the end he tells him, hey, listen, you've been killing these people left and right and you have no remorse. And only you can only debate that only serial killers and tremendous individuals have that kind of unconscious, no sympathy, no empathy to everything. And also obviously through the movie he burns her stuff. He tries to manipulate him thinking that he's doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you watch that movie, you can see that, at least from, and this is my perspective, okay, that he's very true. He's very what you call it. He's very disturbed individual who is very angry. Obviously, he has reasons to be angry, but his reasons, which he gives us, are overturned in the movie by saying, "Hey, listen, he did all of this to himself." Yes, there was an incident. Yes, there was a report. Yes, the people who were responsible for that were punished, not technically by death. But that did not stop this hunger, and that did not stop this person from going again and again. And the only thing he says is like, the just because I can't remember it, you know, it doesn't matter. It did not happen. Like you, there's that contradiction in his view and his way of his journey. It's like, I've been doing all of this for so long. Cops ain't gonna get me, because usually the serial killers, they need to be stopped either by cops, they need to be either just go and surrender. And in this scenario, the only way he understands how he can stop this is by making all of these tattoos, because he needs to stop himself somehow. So
Mm-hmm.
if he gets that last final tattoo, I did it, which again is displayed, that one piece above his heart is not covered by any tattoos in the movie. And Natalie asked him, hey, what you gonna do with that spot? He says, well, I'm probably gonna tattoo something here to remind me that I killed the right guy, which clearly we know he didn't, because he already killed the right guy, so that spot is still open. That
Mm-hmm.
means that he keeps doing what he's doing, not because he avenged his wife. He's doing this, you can say, because Teddy makes him do it, but in a sense, Teddy's kind of like, we did this. Like, you had to stop. I did not take 12 pages. I did not erase the markers. I thought you're gonna remember, but you didn't. You could have made a tattoo instead of saying John G raped and murdered my wife. You could have erased all of that and say, I revenged my wife. But he does not do that. He burns that. He burns the first thing he does with that Polaroid, not the first, but one of the few things, one of the, in the following of consequences, what he does with that Polaroid, he burns it. So he does not want to remember that he already took the life who he blames is being responsible for everything what happened to him, right? And that's the down of this movie. That's the hard part of this movie, is that Nolan shows that sometimes the bad person just keeps being bad. Maybe I just see every movie that has a crazy, horrible villain, and there's nothing left good in the world. But honestly, that's not the way I'm trying to get to this. But that's how it unfolds for me. That's how it makes more sense. Yeah, sure, we can believe in the fairy tale that Leonard does not have, memory, does not have the physical capabilities of creating new memories. And that's the narrative. If you want to go with that narrative, it's still a fantastic movie. It's still a brilliant, well done, well filmed, good soundtrack, good acting. Overall, I give this 10 out of 10. No worries. It just these little things. And again, those are just little things which anybody can overlook and pretend that they're Lenny and just don't remember them while they're watching the movie. So if you guys can do that, go ahead and you do that. So that's my kind of take on the whole thing. He says, I'm not a killer, I'm just a guy who wanted to make things right. but we see you a killer. We see you shooting a guy in the head in the beginning. The vicious attack on Jimmy, Natalie's boyfriend, for no reason. You see the surprise of the guy, and that scene is actually cringe. Beginning scene is cringe, of course, but when he attacks Jimmy, and Jimmy's like, "You're a memory man. What are you doing? Like, I'm here to make a deal with Jimmy. There's with Teddy. There's 200 grand in the car. Just go it and leave. Like, I have no beef with you." But Lenny's rage and his lust for blood and revenge, or whatever you want to call it, is already overtaken his body. He can't rationalize that decision. He goes through with his plan. And it's a scary thing how one person, just based on a Polaroid picture or whatever the note he has, kill this person, and automatically it turns into the soldiers do that, serial killers do that. I mean, you tell me who does that, even though
not an insurance salesman.
Right. That not unless you kind of already, and you see how easy it is for him. There's no remorse. He just take off your clothes. I'm killing you. In his head, this body is already dead. He just needs him to take off the clothes. And the only thing which snaps him out of that state of mind is when Jimmy calls name Sammy.
Yeah.
That kind of tumbles that card house apart. And that's when Lenny kind of snaps out of it, and he's like, "Oh, fuck, how does he know about Sammy?" And then we have the whole conversation with Joe Pantoliano character, where he tells him, "Hey, listen," and that's the beautiful performance of him. Is so nonchalant. He's measuring the boots. They've done this so many times. It's like, "Listen, Lenny, you've been killing these people for ages now. Like, I thought you were gonna stop, but you didn't, and you just keep going and you keep solving these puzzles." And at that point, Lenny's like, "Enough is enough." So the only person who I know, I mean, he can go back and keep doing what he's doing, but Teddy's been really helping him to have this drive and to selecting the victims properly. So
let me ask you this: do you think that moment when Teddy is, telling Lenny everything that he's been doing for the past year, right? Did it ever cross your mind that maybe Teddy's fucking with him because he can't create new memories and he's just lying to him? Because the reason I bring this up, throughout the movie, the two characters in the movie besides Lenny have clearly been manipulating him, taking advantage of his condition.
Absolutely.
Do they ever come to your mind that maybe Teddy's just fucking with him and telling him this so he can just believe it?
Right. Teddy does everything through the movie to manipulate Lenny.
Mm-hmm.
But in this point, again, he also is kind of like out of his element. He's not thinking straight. He goes back to thinking straight afterwards. You can see him trying to get back, like, "Hey, what you doing? Why you still here? You need to leave. There are people looking for you. There's been a cop. I'm a snitch." But in that specific moment, there's no window for creating this stuff up. Like, the job is done. Jimmy's dead. The money's in the car. We done the deed. Like, it's after the after when we dividing the loot. In this case, there's no reason to have, at least in my opinion, any. And he plays along. He gives him enough bullets to kind of hang himself, and then says, "It's your wife who had diabetes." And then
he's like,
"No, it's Sammy." He's like, "Sammy did not have a wife."
Yeah.
And you see the scene when obviously he does the insulin shot, and then he's like, "No, it's not true." And he rewinds that scene in his head.
And it's him pitching his wife. Yeah.
Right. So again, that's what Nolan does best. He lets us hanging out there. He lets us hanging with Memento. He lets us hanging with Inception. He lets us hanging with Tenet. Even Interstellar to some degree. Even a little bit more explained. That's what Nolan does best. He lets you go through depth of what was seen on the screen and figure out what do you actually think happened? And there's, listen, I'm telling you, there's hundreds of people who say that this is not true. Sammy Jenkins was real. His wife was murdered. They killed him. And yes,
and what you're saying in the movie is what yeah.
You can watch that movie the way it is and be 100% sure that that's what you saw, because you remember what you want to remember from any movie. Any person, they will remember whatever they want to remember and how they want to take the movie. If I tell you that the movie sucked, I have 10 reasons why it sucked for me. Same thing.
Like Gravity.
And you're gonna have 100 reasons why I'll tell you it did not suck for me. That's your person. It's the same way I'm gonna tell you, and probably people will unsubscribe. I did not enjoy the Mandalorian season 2 ending. I did not. To me, it was just milking the dead cow. Like, why do you bring? Anyway.
So look, this movie is another.
What is your take, though?
Before I go through my take,
right.
like this movie is it's another great example of having an unreliable narrator. Like we discussed previously in Joker, that another unreliable narrator, and then there's other movies that have that. So again, we're presenting with this character that throughout the entire movie, he's telling you his story from his point of view. You don't know the other character's point of view, but you're relying solely on his information.
Right.
But then the third act plays out, and all of a sudden you're like, so maybe what he's been telling us, the audience, through the entire movie is not actually 100% true. And again, it's something that Nolan likes to mess with the audience. It's a trademark of his movies, for the exception, obviously. No, actually, scratch that. Even in the Batman movies, he's mind fucking us. Okay? Like, that's set aside. Look, Batman movies, the Dark Knight trilogy. Every time you think that the bad guy in the movie who it is, it turns out to be someone else. Batman Begins. When you think that Ra's al Ghul was played by Ken Watanabe, and you think that he's the bad guy, and then it turns out that Liam Neeson's the bad guy in the movie. Right? The Dark Knight Rises. You think that Bane is the bad guy in the movie, and it turns out is Talia al Ghul, the bad guy in the movie, right? And you don't find that until the third act.
What about the Dark Knight? Who is the villain there? It's not the Joker.
I mean, the Joker, yeah, but is he really the villain?
It's not. No, that's what I'm saying. I agree with you. I think the Society is the villain in that movie.
Society and Two-Face, Harvey Dent.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He's the villain. And again, like, look, we'll discuss Dark Knight in another podcast, but this is what Nolan does best. If you watch a movie done by Nolan, you're in for a mind-bending or something that you thought it was going, and it's not. It happens in Interstellar. It happens in The Prestige. It even happens in Dunkirk.
That movie's trash. There you go. Revenge is the sweet.
It even happens in Insomnia. Like, when you're thinking that something is going the way that you're suspecting it, that narrative completely shifts it. And that's a Nolan thing. So it's just so a little fun fact. There's something that you notice, and it's how this movie is filmed. The camera is always staying with Guy Pearce. Every time there's a scene, it's just showing you Guy Pearce's point of view. Okay? If you look at this movie, everything you see is from his point of view, and that's who you're solely trusting through the entire movie. That's just, yeah. So to go to my theory, and I kind of agreed with yours, and like your take is pretty eye-opening, because I never thought about that take of him being possibly like a sociopath or a serial killer that's just on a loop. But I believe that, I agree with you. Sammy Jenkins is not real. And Sammy Jenkins is Leonard Shelby. Okay? He created the character Sammy to repress his guilt of him killing his wife. Now, how he kills his wife in the movie, I can't solely pinpoint like this is the way he did it. Maybe it's from an overdose of insulin. Maybe he was the one that strangled her in the scene. Because he had enough. And
you're going darker. I just went with insulin. You're going darker, way darker.
This is what I think. He could have been the one.
One thing which actually going to support your theory. There's a scene when Natalie asked him to describe how he remembers his wife. Another point that people when ask him what you remember, it's always a different story. It's like almost like a Joker's, like, how did they get these scars? But in that specific scene, he says, enough to know how much you miss them and how much you hate the person they took them away. And the camera is pointing at his wife laying, and him. It's only him who can be on the other end. So she's looking at him, and he's telling like how much you miss her and the person who took them away. So it's kind of like, but I took them away. Double standard. But that's
But I believe
back to your theory.
I believe how he murdered his wife. I can't really pinpoint it. It could have been from the overdose of insulin, or he is the one that actually kills her by strangling her in that scene. And he creates in his head these two men intruding into his house and raping and murdering his wife. Okay. And then he manages to shoot one, and the other one managed to get away and push him against the mirror. And that's where he get his accident, and his amnesia starts from that point on. So that's my take. And it's just, honestly, this movie, I can't really say like this is how it is, because again, it's like you said, it's a narrative that if you want to be just satisfied, not think about this movie, you're going to live with the narrative that's presented to you.
Right.
Sammy Jenkins is real. He had the same conditions as Leonard, and Leonard kills Jimmy G, but then finds out that the true killer is John Teddy G, right? And then boom, the end. You lived on. That's next movie. But for us, you and I, that like to go like deeper in all these movies, we're never going to be satisfied with because like you said, there is no true answer to what this movie's ending is. And again, it's a Nolan thing, because it's the same thing that he manages to do with us in Inception.
All I'm gonna say, it's a worth a view. There's some movies I can say, you know what, you guys can skip this one, and we're moving forward. We know movies are not for every movie is not for everybody. Like if we ever gonna talk about Requiem for a Dream, we will. I'll be the first one to yell to you, like, if you don't want to have this experience which gonna change your perspective of life, don't watch this movie. And that's one of those movies, but this movie is just, it's good. It's good. There's not the real word I can come up. It's not really fun to watch, but it's good if you're in the mood for this. It's a psychological thriller. It's a little bit of the chase.
It's a neo-noir film. That's the genre that Nolan describes it. It's a neo-noir, because there's a lot of elements of noir movies, like detective movie, because that's what Leonard is in this entire movie.
Right.
A detective. All right. And how that movie, the settings of that movie, like very little descriptions. You don't know where exactly what town he is. He just in this, you can see he's in like this 1-star motel, and he's driving this dirty, expensive car. Right. And it's daylight, and it's very sunny, so you can either say, oh, he's probably in Las Vegas, or he's probably in LA, right?
Right.
Well, but that's common in noir movies. You're just focusing on the character trying to solve this mystery, and that's what Leonard is doing through this entire movie, and that's what this genre is probably the perfect genre to describe this. It's a neo-noir movie with a psychological twist.
Yeah, and I can only recommend you guys checking it out. And if you have seen it, watch it again. Yeah,
my wife saw it for the first time Saturday with me.
Well, I hope she liked
enjoyed it. She liked it, and she did say, like, I need to watch this movie again so I can, like...
What is her take? Does she believe that Sammy Jenkins was real?
She believes that Sammy is real.
We all do. That's how you go into your first go. It's you have to believe because you feel so bad for this guy. Like he betrayed his life, just did not give him a chance, and then you come up out of this and you'd be like, I think he enjoyed killing these people. But all right, so where are we going from here, Ruben? We need to do something lighter. Are we doing anything lighter next?
We're going to so next week.
Guys, please.
I mean, compared to this movie and like the first two we did, we're going to do something semi-light. So we're gonna explore M. Night Shyamalan's mind, but we're not gonna.
Please be Signs. Please be Signs.
We're not doing Sixth Sense. We're actually gonna do Signs, starring Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix. That's gonna be our next week's MovieByte. So we're gonna digest that movie for all of you guys girls that are listening and viewing us. We're gonna give you our take, what M. Night Shyamalan was trying to create, and how that was probably his last good movie in that decade until he did Split. Okay, so we'll dive into that. So I think we're gonna wrap it up. Check out Memento. It's a great movie directed by Christopher Nolan.
You can watch it on Pluto TV. It's a free app. There's some ads on it, but it's free. So if you guys want to check out the movie,
I think it's also on Prime Video, again with ads through IMDb TV. If not, you can always rent it on your favorite digital platform. Maybe eventually HBO will have it. I know they had it for a while. Same with Netflix. They did have it for a while, a long time ago. So, but just check it out.
Worst case scenario, it's $8 on movies.
Yeah. It's any digital platform you can buy or rent it. Pluto TV, you can stream it through Pluto TV for free with ads. IMDb TV has it also for free with ads. So yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you all for tuning in, listening and viewing us. Hope you have enjoyed our take on this beautiful film called Memento. I am your host, Ruben, and with me, the Russian.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a great week.
And we'll see you next week, guys and girls. Thank you so much.